Dr. Graves, let me throw a few words at you. 1974, Fort Detrick, Maryland, Fort Detrick Biological Warfare Center. How's that fit in?
Well, sure. I mean, again, you're claiming the year 1974. There were a number of things that happened in 1974 that, we're going to show in the case that are concrete with respect to the U.S.'s world population control programs at that point. And boy, Fort Detrick is at the heart of this because, Gallo worked there, and this special virus program, I mean, we've got more than enough science evidence, and people need to know this. This program produced a virus there at Fort Detrick called ESP1 virus. It's HIV. The special virus program made the ESP1 virus under electron microscope, and this is what we're going to share with Congresswoman Susan Davis tomorrow, that under electron microscope at 100,000 times magnification, the ESP1 virus that was man-made by the U.S. Special Virus Program is the HIV virus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, in Africa, 1977, there was a series of smallpox vaccinations that, from my information, says that was the way it was introduced into Africa, through the smallpox vaccinations. Would you concur with that?
Yes, 100%. And let me go further. For those who have the flowchart, as you lay the flowchart document out, you'll see on the far right hand side, you'll see phase 5. I don't know if you guys have it right in front of you.
No,
Victor?
No.
Okay. For those who have the flowchart, on the far right-hand side it says clinical trials, the final phase of this program, to test and to conduct test measures on how effectively they can control it, how effectively they can control this by releasing this mycoplasma, death mycoplasma, because there are other incapacitating mycoplasmas like chronic fatigue syndrome, like it's sort of like what you get from the chemtrail syndrome. It's a debilitating mycoplasma, but it incapacitates. It's not lethal. HIV is lethal. And what you find here is that this federal program lies at the heart of just about a number of all these diseases of unknown etiology. You guys? Mm-hmm. You're going to find that a lot of stuff's been conducted through this federal program. You're aware that Dr. Garth Nicholson, have you heard of him?
Yes.
Dr. Garth Nicholson in 1994 found that Gulf War illness was HIV with one gene missing.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Well, why don't we gotta really rapid fire these to get everything in by the end of the show. 1978, November 1978, there's a program run by the National Institute of Health and the Centers for Disease Control called Operation Firm Hand, where an experimental hepatitis B vaccine was introduced in New York City by a Polish doctor called Dr. W. Zmunis.
Yeah, well, Zmunis, yes, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, basically, you're just cross-checking to confirm some points that you had articulated previously or have been familiar with previously, and you just want to cross-check, see what's true and what isn't?
Well, I just want to let the listeners see how this was, the actual nuts and bolts of how.
Yeah, well, the nuts and bolts are this. You take that flowchart document, it depicts the research logic of the development of a special virus, and then you get into the makings as to what makes this virus special over other viruses. Well, this virus is special because this virus takes you out, if you would, i.e., it turns off your immune system, and so you're a walking casket. In the phase 5, final phase on the right-hand side, the clinical trials, what they did was they shipped the ESP1 virus, which is HIV. They shipped the 1971 ESP1 virus to the vaccine developer, Pfizer. Pfizer attached the ESP1 virus as complement to the vaccines that went to Africa, smallpox, and to the experimental hepatitis B vaccine that went to the recruited homosexuals in Manhattan. And many people aren't aware that homosexuals were recruited to take this experimental hepatitis B vaccine. See, we weren't aware of that.
Right. So
they pulled up trucks. I'm sorry?
They had a very extensive questionnaire, and all they took was homosexual men between the ages of 20 and 40, And
I mean, you're again confirming the program. Maybe it's new for the listeners per se, but if you've written this previously, I guess it isn't. That it is true that homosexuals were chosen as a cohort group of this special virus program in I think it was December 1974 conference at Asilomar Conference in California, Asilomar, A-C-I-L-O-M-A-R, Asilomar Conference, where they picked homosexuals. Then they went out to recruit them, and they only wanted a certain type of homosexual, one who was white, one who was educated, one who was promiscuous, believe it or not, and one who had a job, so that, in essence, they could make sure that they followed up with the second and third booster shots or whatever. But all 1,083 men who took that injection, the experimental hepatitis B shot, died of AIDS.
Right, that's what my records say, is that just a few years later the Center for Disease Control came in, and already just 2 years later, so 64% of the men had already either contacted disease or died from it. And
yeah, you know, the interesting thing, maybe you don't know this, Victor, I guess maybe you do, that you know where the final statistics are?
Huh.
The final statistics of that group of men, the gay men, is being secretly held by the Department of Justice. As to how many of those 1,043 men died, which there's much speculation that all 1,043 died, but that final statistic is being held by the U.S. Department of Justice. And we're hopeful that maybe we can get around to even getting that information in, because our efforts have been to go for truth, to go for the facts, because I personally was interested in dismantling HIV AIDS out of my body, and if others can join in that process along the way, that's fine. I did take that cure, that Tetrasil, that patent, 5676977. 15 months ago, I took that cure.
And what are the results? What are you finding out?
Well, I'm not speaking from the grave.
How about a man named Waves Forrest? Have you heard of him?
Which one?
His name is Waves Forrest. He wrote an article called Designer Diseases. AIDS is a biological and psychological warfare.
Well, you know, clearly, the psychological warfare is well, certainly for me, is it's more harm than the physical warfare at this point, because the scarlet letter of HIV/AIDS is such that it really doesn't matter how much of the U.S. documents that we uncover and bring to some people. They are still going to think that somehow that it doesn't matter, and it's okay for the government to make HIV and AIDS, that your behavior should be what is ultimately the most important, and it doesn't matter if your government tries to kill you. Well, we disagree with that.
One of the most amazing things on your website was that you say that by June of 1977, the government had produced 15,000 gallons of the AIDS virus.
Well, that's a misstatement, actually, by me.
Okay.
I did that, transposed it, if you would, to gallons, because I just thought it made it seem like it would be more understandable for lay people, for us. Actually, the report says is that they made 60,000 liters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned to people that you were going to be on our show tonight and explained a little bit what we're going to be talking about, they have this look of just incredulity to it, that it's inconceivable that our government or the World Health Organization or anybody could be involved in such an atrocious practice. What would you say to someone like that to convince them that this is a reality, that this has taken place and it is occurring?
Well, you know, it's pretty simple at this point, again, as it is in the lawsuit now. Now that we're in the door, wow, I feel like a whole burden is off of my head. We're holding official U.S. documents. We're not sure what anybody else is holding.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really expect the court to hold the U.S. government accountable?
I expect the court of public opinion to hold the U.S. government accountable. We have done so in the past.
I would agree with that, because the court system doesn't tend to, I don't know.
Well, I'm saying we've done so in the past, and we can do so again. You know, in essence, and in actuality, this is akin to the human subject experimentation that we experienced when we found out about the Tuskegee. And again, you find that they were working on people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And in essence, you find that beginning in 1932, they began testing this Visna on the sheep in Iceland. As they began Tuskegee, they began testing HIV AIDS, and we should be apologized to, just as they were apologized to for Tuskegee. Tuskegee had syphilis and lingered until they died. Tragic deaths as they permeated the syphilis through their families in the fashion that happened. But the same is true with HIV AIDS. That if 30% of HIV AIDS is from a 1932 strain of Nazi Visna, we need our apology. Just like Tuskegee, we need that apology today. You know, people need to, the good people, because there are bad people, you know, everywhere, apparently, and many of them apparently are in Washington, but people who are good and want to come on board, now that there is corroborated evidence, if you yourself are uncertain about the information, I challenge people to take your library challenge. Call your local library. Ask to speak to the interlibrary loan person. Ask for them to look into the World Catalog database. And then tell them to enter Special Virus Cancer Program. And believe it or not, there are 8 references to the federal program that made AIDS in the public library system of the United States of America. Now, take the challenge.
This information's out there.
It's in the public library system. Take the challenge. Special Virus Cancer Program in the World Catalog database. And make the effort to look it up as opposed to scratching your head and turning the radio off or turning the computer off, because this information can't come through. An African and a monkey had to have been the beginning. And that's not true. Pardon me?
What about the media? Is the media covering this? This is a huge story.
The media is covering the program. Our press has been abridged. We are constitutionless.
Incredible. How does the Hershey Medical Center fit into this? Where we're located in State College, Pennsylvania, it's only 2 hours away. You say that every year at the Hershey Medical Center, all of these AIDS creators or doctors or scientists meet for an annual progress report.
Yeah, it was the centralized intelligence of this program, where Hershey became the hub. Hershey, in essence, is the Hegelian center, the Hegelian dialectic center. Hershey. The professor there in Pennsylvania, prolific in the development of HIV, is Dr. Fred Rapp of Penn State University.
How do you spell his last name?
R-A-P-P, Fred Rapp.
Okay. And he's right here at Penn State?
Relevant to the development of HIV/AIDS, Dr. Fred Rapp was a pivotal player in the development of HIV/AIDS, along with Dr. Alan S. Rapson, who we've already identified in the paperwork in the federal case. But Fred Rapp, in this sense, Dr. Rapp was the host for this program.
Okay, very good.
And not only that, but Penn State University, although every progress report says that we're preparing this report for the annual meetings at Hershey Medical Center, Hershey Medical Center has no records of these meetings.
They don't, huh?
No, and Dr. Rapp would not talk to me. So we see Dr. Rapp's name prominently in these progress reports in the development of HIV/AIDS. And here's our position. We believe that Congress has to issue a private relief bill, to me, to be able to litigate the people's case, as it requires in this issue. But we have found the wellspring of the genesis of the AIDS, and it is this federal program, the U.S. Special Virus Program.